You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. What a night for Garrett Nussmeier on Saturday. Nuss goes out there. Man, first half was a struggle. Ends up completing just 43% of his passes for the game. But ends up going for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. And 2 of them when you absolutely had to have it. A 4th and 5, 23-yard touchdown pass to Aaron Anderson at the end of regulation to tie it. And, of course, the game winner, the 25-yard touchdown pass to Kyron Lacey in overtime. You know what's interesting that many may not be aware of? I was kind of digging into the PFF numbers. Garrett Nussmeier attempted 16 passes of 20 yards or more on Saturday. 16 beyond 20 yards. He was 4 of 16. That's not good. He was 4 of 16. But 2 of the 4 were, of course, the game winner in overtime, and this one to Aaron Anderson, which is one we'll talk about forever.
It's Nussmeier with the snap. 4-man rush, throws. Anderson at the 1, into the end zone. Touchdown, Fighting Tigers. Hey now, 23-yard strike. Anderson got the call. He delivered. And the Tigers are a point after away from tying this up.
You know, I asked Brian Kelly on Monday about that play. He was asked after the game about it, and he kind of deflected the question and just used it as an opportunity to praise the offensive line for giving Garrett Nussmeier the time to make that throw. But I asked Brian Kelly about it because that was 4th and 5, y'all. That wasn't 1st and 10 in the second quarter that he took a shot. That was 4th and 5 with 30 seconds left. If that ball is incomplete, the game is over. You need 5 yards. You don't need a touchdown there. You need 5 yards to give yourself an opportunity to keep this drive going, to potentially, to take your shots into the end zone to try to tie the game, send it to overtime. And, man, you're going to hear what Brian Kelly said, because I asked him, because, look, this is one we're going to talk about forever. And I wanted him on the record about that play. But what was so interesting about it is when you go back and watch that play, Aaron Anderson was not open. Television showed an end zone shot of that play. And Anderson is between the cornerback and the safety. He's not open. Nussmeier's throwing to a spot, which is what all great quarterbacks at every level of football do. It's you anticipate your guy being open. But it wasn't like Aaron Anderson was down the field waving his hands in the air like, hey, I'm wide open. That's the crazy thing about it. He threw to a spot in a moment where you absolutely had to have it, and I'll be damned, he ends up throwing a game-tying touchdown. Here's what Brian Kelly said about the play on Monday when I asked him.
He had other options there in many of the offensive structured plays in those situations, as you can imagine. He's going to have an opportunity to get the ball out quickly if something presented itself. He was working through the third piece of the progression, and it's Anderson coming all the way across from the slot to the backside hash and just anticipated, where he was going to be, and threw the ball expecting him to be there. That's just trusting your teaching, trusting that that guy is going to be there. He's thrown that ball so many times that you just let it go. He wasn't there. He wasn't open yet. He threw him open.
It's incredible, too. I mean, you had receivers open over the middle of the field. The underneath route was open. The wide receiver broke over the middle. I believe that, well, I can't even tell who that was. I think that was Xavion Thomas. But either way, like, you had a receiver open over the middle of the field that would have gotten you the first down and got you probably somewhere around the 10-yard line. But he went and took a shot, man. It was absolutely incredible to watch that play, given everything on the line, and to be willing to throw that ball in that situation. I mean, it's one of the things I've said about Nuss is he's borderline athletically arrogant. Like, his arm is so good, he knows he can make the throws. It's one of the things why when people ask, why doesn't Nuss run the football? Now, listen, I'm with you on you don't really need to be in a situation where you're calling zone read plays anymore because he's never going to pull the ball and run. So I'm not interested in that. But on plays where there's too high safety and you've got defensive backs running with receivers and their backs to the line of scrimmage and you got 20 yards of real estate in front of you, run. Get you 12 yards, move the sticks, and reset the downs. Like, I'm with you on that. But I think a part of the reason why he doesn't is he just is like, why? I'll just sit here and throw it. I can make all these throws. And he proved why he does it there. It's absolutely incredible to see him make that throw, which was not an easy throw. It was not an open throw, and is with everything on the line. I mean, you could argue that it's borderline careless, but that's just from me sitting there watching on TV or you sitting in the stands. For a guy that's repped that, as Brian Kelly said hundreds of times, that was second nature to him to throw it in that tight window and anticipate his guy being there, and he was. I'm telling you, the more we get removed from the emotion of the moment and all that stuff in the game and we actually look at it, we're going to look more at that play at just what the high level of difficulty the play was. Like Flynn to Bird, like Burt Jones to Brad Davis. I mean, Dr. Brad Davis talked about it. He lost the ball in the lights. He just put his hands out, and Burt put it on his hands. It's kind of incredible. And I think that's another one we're going to see and talk about for a long time as well. And as a result of LSU's win, naturally you're going to see, as they say, to the victor go the spoils. You're going to see Garrett Nussmeier's Heisman odds jump, and they have. He's up to plus 3,000 right now. He's got the 9th best Heisman odds. And I would say this. If you're going to buy, you want to buy low. And I told you last week was the best time to buy low on Garrett Nussmeier, because if they beat Ole Miss, his odds were gonna skyrocket, and they have. But still at plus 3,000, there's great value if you think they're going to keep winning. And he's pacing right now to obviously throw for over 3,500 yards and over 30 touchdowns. And those numbers are plenty good enough if the team keeps winning. And we know what Heisman voters typically do is they ultimately and generally default to the quarterback on the best team, unless there's a situation like Jaden Daniels a year ago where he was so transcendent and he was so good and generational, had that type of season, that he was just the sort of obvious choice. That's why we have this thing on social media that Chris Marler, our social media director, asked me to do. He said, I want to do this one-word series, and it's you just give me a one-word answer. I'll show you a word, you give me a one-word response. He put this on our Instagram as a carousel, and when he put up Heisman, I said Beck, as in Carson Beck from Georgia. And a lot of people roll their eyes, like a lot of the comments were like, that's ridiculous. Today, I agree with you. But he just came off a performance where he threw for 454 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's going to throw for 3,800 yards and 30 touchdowns, and I happen to think Georgia's going to run the table. And they're going to beat Texas and Ole Miss and Tennessee and Georgia Tech, and they're going to be 11-1, and he's going to have thrown for nearly 4,000 yards and over 30 touchdowns, and he's going to win the Heisman. Like that would be my long tail bet. I look at it and I go, Ashton Genty's been great, but small school guys aren't going to win the Heisman. It's going to take one hiccup. I mean, I'll remind you, Leonard Fournette not only was like the front runner, Leonard Fournette went into November with his name carved on the trophy already. November happened. He didn't even get invited to New York. So it's forever to go. So if you're trying to pick today, sure. We could talk the same thing about Travis Hunter, who I think is probably the best player in college football, but he's not winning the Heisman Trophy. It's going to be a quarterback on the best team or contending team. So who do you think are going to be the contenders at the end of the season? So I'll tell you this. Nuss is a great bet right now if you want value. The other two I'll tell you are playing this weekend. It's Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers. They're going to play this weekend in Austin. Both are sitting there with long odds, and this will probably be for one of them, whichever one wins the game, the lowest spot you'll have to buy him the rest of the season. Beck and Ewers are both at plus 1,500. One of those guys is going to win the game, and their odds are going to skyrocket after this weekend. Might even go into betting favorite status after this weekend. So Nuss is hanging around. And, I mean, look, after LSU had their second loss last year, Daniels was a non-factor, kept stockpiling great numbers when they lost to Alabama. He didn't even have Heisman odds the next week. And then he went and did what he did against Florida. I don't know that there's that transcendent player out there this year in college football that's going to do what Jaden Daniels did. So narrow the focus to the quarterbacks on the best teams that you think will be standing there at the end. They'll have the stats to match it. It's probably a good bet. Nussmeier is in that number. Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck are in that group as well. Long way to go. But Nuss has himself firmly in that mix as a quarterback of a one-loss team who is carrying the load right now for that team. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.